All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Learning Golang from Zero. My name is Paul Kernfeld, and I'm a member of the technical staff here at Cockroach Labs. What I've been doing so far is starting with a Hello World program and working my way up to some more advanced concepts in Go. Hey, large data bank. How's your Friday? So, most recently, we did dependency injection. And next, we're going to try to do a little bit of mocking. And this is using the book called Learn Go with Tests, which includes both instructive content as well as exercises for testing that we actually understand the concepts that are being discussed, or alternatively, that we copy pasted the code correctly. So, yeah. And then what have I been up to this week in general? Mostly kind of like preparing for some new Cockroach Cloud features. And I got in a new shipment of teas from my friend this week. So I'm pretty excited to try a new red oolong tea. It says it's a roasted oolong, and it's rich in both aroma and flavor with I probably shouldn't have looked at the flavor notes before tasting it. That's kind of cheating to look at the flavor notes before you taste it. So I've got brown sugar, resin, and dried jujube. So we'll see how that turns out. So Mesh, hello. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, 1 second. Sounds like I have the wrong stream title. The stream title should be mocking in Go. Yeah, we use the software Restream that streams to multiple stream destinations, but it can be a little tricky because it's trying to like control the stream name on Twitch, actually multiple Twitch accounts, one YouTube account, Periscope, just a ton of different places. So I'm impressed that Restream actually is able to do that at all. But yeah, there's sometimes these little glitches where the title will end up being not really what we expected it. Sometimes it gets like an old title from a previous stream. So yeah, let's take a look at mocking. The premise here is that we have to write a program that counts down from 3, printing each number with a 1-second pause. And when it reaches 0, it will print go and exit. Fine. That actually reminds me a little bit of the FizzBuzz interview problem, but this is mathematically a little more simple. The interesting thing, though, is that it has the side effect of sleeping that we need to test. So they're saying we're going to write a function called countdown. So maybe I'll try and just write this program like how I would. Yeah, I think if we're writing this program in a normal way, it would just be a couple lines of code. But this book is all about test-driven development. So, do people have any ideas of how we would test this program? Sora C10, welcome. And Arman, hello. How is everyone's Friday going? Oh, wow, this tea is crazy. It tastes a lot more like a green tea than a red tea. Or I guess a black tea is what you would call it. But it tastes pretty grassy to me. I wouldn't for me the tasting notes are a little different. Oh, happy birthday. That's exciting. Office hours. Armand, are you a TA or a professor? I think I'll maybe, this is interesting. They're just calling a countdown function here. Oh, okay. Software engineering office hours. What does that look like? So step 1 is print 3. Step 2 is print 3, 2, 1, and go. And step 3 is wait a second between each line. I'll probably head out. Source C10 is heading out to celebrate with their family. That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that. It's always nice to be able to get together with people, especially with COVID. So, okay, we're going to write the test first. So what test are they writing here? They're writing, so this, I don't think I want to type this whole thing out because this is kind of a review from the previous episode where what this is doing is printing out, instead of printing out to standard out, it looks like they're printing into a buffer and then checking the contents of the buffer by calling this function buffer.string. Countdown. Yeah, so honestly, I want that in my test file, but I think that test is pretty similar to last time. So I'll need to do my imports myself at least, my package. But yeah, mostly copying and pasting here. So what we need to import? I think we need to import bytes and import testing. That looks like everything. Okay, so now it wants us to actually write the function. That's fine. This is really a very incremental process. And then I think we need to pass like OS standard out. I forget exactly the syntax for that. Import OS maybe, and then it might be a capital standard out actually. What do people think about Go's system of capitalizing public things and then not capitalizing private methods? So is this function going to work, do we think? I think it's ready to go. So I'll do go test dot. Oops. So test countdown. Have a. Oh, the problem is that I put my main in quotes, and you actually have to have that not in quotes, which is weird because when you import a package, is it that you're importing a package or a module? I think it's a package. Oops. Now I have an undefined countdown. Did I just not write the countdown function? I think I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. So let's write that. So this is our actual business logic. Everything else is just kind of like wrapper. We need this to be like a writer. So this is called io.writer, I think. I probably need to do import io though. So to write this, I think I just call this, oh, I need to check the error, of course. So I'll use this Golang pattern if error, and then we set the error. And we set that to w.write. Okay. And then we also need to, we put the semicolon in here, and then we check if the error, we want to check if it's nil or if it's non-nil. Probably if it's nil. And should this countdown function return an error? I guess in the future it will need to. But for now, there's no way to return that error from the countdown function. Well, so mesh capital W on write. Yes, because that's a public function. I'm just so unused to that pattern because a lot of other languages that I'm familiar with don't use it. But I think it's a cool idea. I think like what capital versus lowercase is used for is very different between different languages. In a lot of languages, it'll be like objects are capitalized, variables are lowercase, and then constants might be all capitals. But I think there's some variation in that type of thing. That's what I guess a lot of languages do use that. So for now, I guess we actually can just return nil. We can just ignore the error. Potentially, I could put a panic here. I actually don't know how to do a panic. I haven't written an explicit panic in Golang, and I don't know if we even learned about it. But the reason to do this is so that my code will loudly fail in case something does go wrong while I'm trying to do this right. I think that this is not a good pattern to use in like a service because if you panic, you'll take the whole service down. But it's probably fine for a situation like this where it's like I just want to find what the error is. And it's kind of just boy code anyways. So I want to try a panic there. Undefined. Yeah, so let's try running our test again. Did that fix it? Arguments and call. I didn't tell it what I wanted it to write. That's a good point because I think I just want to write like a new line. So Match is saying that, oh, the Go will give an error if you like create this error variable and you don't use it. But I think I am using it now because I'm putting it as the text of the panic. Does that seem right? I think that the comments or the stream is like probably a little delayed from the comments. Cool. So really this should probably write a new line. Oops. Cannot use 3 type string as type byte array. And then also undefined format. So the format one is pretty easy to fix. And to fix the array, we can just, I think we can just write, like wrap it in byte array, and it'll do a cast or a conversion for us. Okay. Countdown at go line 8. So w.write returns 2 values. It also returns the number of bytes written. We can normally, unlike in some languages, we can actually ignore this because it will always return an error if it has not written all of the bytes. Whereas in some programming languages, the main writer interface is allowed to write only some of the bytes but not return an error, which I think is pretty confusing behavior. You might need to repeatedly call write until it has, and like count how many bytes it has written, and then keep track of the bytes till it succeeds, which is kind of annoying to do by hand. A lot of languages have helper functions for doing this, but you have to know to like call the helper function. So looks like our very first countdown test is working. All this does is print the number 3 and then verify that we tried to write 3. Oh yeah, maybe. So they're using fprint here. Do I really need to use fprint here? Oh, they're like doing an unnecessary number of steps here. I just, instead of putting a buffer pointer, I just did what we did in the previous episode and just replace this with the io.writer interface. Ooh. So I don't think that I think that my function is fine as well. We may need to use fprint later. So we already did all of this refactoring stuff. So I think we can skip this for a little while. So now we want to print 3, 2, 1, go. One thing I'm noticing here, oh, look at this string. This is how you do a multi-line string literal in Golang. It's a little bit awkward, but I think multi-line string literals in any language, pretty weird. Like in Python, I don't know if you still do this, but there's this thing called dedent, where the multi-line string, like, you write the multi-line string like this, and it like comes with built-in white space at the beginning of every line. So then you have to call this dedent function on it, which will move all of the text all the way to the left. It's a pretty weird way to do multi-line strings. Another thing, Scala multi-line strings. There's like a really crazy way to do multi-line strings in Scala, because you have the same problem as Python, where if you indent your string, then it will come with white space at the start. But you can also use this like pipe symbol and then call a strip margin function that's built into Scala. And so a lot of strings that you see in Scala that are multi-line will have this like strip margin function on them. It's pretty weird. I would say that is my least favorite multi-line string. Anyways, so back to the Golang. we want this multi-line string. Seems good. And so let's put that in the test. Ooh. Oh man, I think I need to call it test countdown.go, not countdown test.go. So let's add in the new expected value. And then run the test to verify that the test fails. Oops, that looks like a. So I need to remove my extra file. Test. Oh, which is, I keep forgetting which is the real one. So let's try the test again. Uh-oh, did that pass? That doesn't seem good. Maybe I named the function wrong. Yes, I think it needs to be at the end. So I actually did not run my tests on the previous code because the test file was named in a way that like Go doesn't pick it up as a test file. So I need to make sure that that's correct. Okay, well, I think that this test was correct for last time. Just to make sure, I'll do a git stash. Then I'm going to do go test dot. No, that doesn't. Does that make sense? Yeah, let's add countdown test dot go. Let's do a git remove of test. Let's remove the fake file with git rm. Oh man, this is quite a situation I've gotten myself into here. So now it's processing that as a rename. That looks good. So I want to do a go test dot. Okay. So I have still here because I copied the new version of the test. So I need to like revert to the previous version to check that it worked. Okay. So I'm going to do a git commit amend. And then I'm also going to add all the modified files and I'm going to do no edit so that I don't open up the text editor. We'll just use the same commit message. The real git YOLO, in my opinion, well, you can do actually some really crazy things. The real git YOLO for me is git commit amend -a -- no edit -- no verify. So that will add all of the changed files like directly into your previous commit. And I would say that's a pretty sketchy way to do version control in general. Like if you mess something up, your previous commit may end up being like completely garbage. And you also run with no verify, it means that you won't run your Git hooks. So now that the test actually passed the last time, we can go back and add in the new expected value. And we should be able to easily verify that our function does not work. All right. See ya, Sora. Enjoy your birthday. Okay. So the backtick syntax lets you put new lines directly into your string. That's great. Let's try making this function pass now. People think that this book is doing like too much test-driven development. Like, would you say that it's going too slowly? So we need some kind of loop. We know that the only kind of loop in Golang is a for loop. So I think I want to do like a reverse for loop. This is how I would write that in like a Java script or C type language, I think. I need to pull out my code and actually run it in the for loop. I'm going to run a Go format on this code. Let's come back to it. That looks a lot nicer. So now we actually do need to use this format right. I think it's called F right or something like that. And we need to provide a format string. So the format string, I'm going to use %d because we need to format an integer as a string. And then we need to write a new line. And then rather than writing just the literal 3, we need to write a different number each time. So we'll start with 3. And then we have to decide how we want to do the write. We either need to call fwrite outside the loop or inside the loop. I think both are defensible. I think I might go with inside the loop and then special case 0. Does that seem a little dumb? Yeah, that seems a little, I don't know. That's a little too weird. I'm going to do it outside of the loop. I changed my mind. So it means that we need to make 2 of these panic calls, which means I'll need to replace 2 of the panic calls in the future, but I think that's not the biggest deal. So now we need to write go ! And that ought to do it. Oh, I didn't specify where we are writing to. I think the writer is the first argument. Okay. So let's try the test. Oops. Okay, so fprint is what I was thinking. It's actually, I thought it was called fwrite. Fprint call has possible formatting directive %d. That's an interesting error message. Oh, I think I needed to call fprintf or fprintline because fprint will only take it will only take a string literal. So it was actually warning me that I was not supposed to do a formatting directive in there. That's actually really nice of the compiler. Cool. So that code passed. Excellent. Cool. So let's add this code to Git. I'm going to do git add-p just so I can see what I'm adding here. And I better, you know what? I'm going to run a Go format. And then I'm going to rerun git add-p. So this commit message is going to be 3, 2, 1, go. and that's going to run all my tests. So I'm going to take a really quick for a couple minutes just to grab some more tea. And then we're going to work with actually trying to do sleeps, which is I think this is interesting. And this is a bit of an expansion from what we did last time because we did not, we only test writing out to a buffer, but how are we going to test sleeping? I think that's an interesting problem that probably a lot of people don't do enough of. So I'm going to set a timer for a couple minutes and I'll be back in like 3 minutes. All right. Well, I'm back. Thanks for waiting. So what we just did is we just mocked out the OS standard out, and now we're going to work on mocking out a sleep function. So let's see how the book suggests that we do this. So you can just write the sleep directly into your code, but obviously this is not mocked. I think that's okay. This would actually work. Curious to hear what sort of stuff people are interested in seeing in the future on learning Golang from zero. One thing I'm actually really excited about is learning about concurrency in Golang. I've heard a lot about Go routines especially, and that being, I don't know if it's not really the killer app, but it's like maybe Go routines are like the killer feature of Golang. So I'm really excited to learn about that. And I think it'll also be fun to see what sorts of mischief we can cause with concurrency, because it's always tricky to get concurrency right, and there's lots of subtle and interesting bugs that we can try to cause or fix. So let's add this into the program as they've suggested. Yeah, sure. So I'll write the function as they've suggested it. That should work fine. The only thing I need to do is define this countdown start. So I'm going to make that 3. Can I define that outside of a function? I actually don't know. Ooh. Ooh. Oh man. So I think I need a constant, but I kind of don't remember how to declare a constant in Go. That might be a bit of a downer. I definitely should know that. Okay, const, then the name. Oh, and they're capitalizing it. Right, that makes sense. And I guess I don't need the colon equals. Coding guy, a project after completing this would be really good. Yeah, I would definitely like to work on a little project. I think I had an idea. Maybe it wasn't that good an idea because I seem to have forgotten it. Oh man. So everything in this thing is like a constant. Final word equals go. And was that the only thing? Undefined time. Okay, this one's definitely my fault because I need to import time. Yeah, does anybody have ideas for like what types of projects would be interesting to work on? It would have to be something that could be like done effectively with my current knowledge of Golang. So let's do, okay, that passed. And let's try a go run. 3, 2, 1, go. Great. That's exactly what we wanted to see. One thing that I don't know if people already know what this percent sign means. This just means that there's no new line at the end of the input. So that's because we used fprint instead of fprint line. Oh yeah, I actually had an idea for a decent Go project. I think it would work with my current knowledge. It would be like an open source thing to take Go tests that are formatted as JSON and convert the output into what Golang would produce if you didn't format them as JSON. That's something that I've wanted for the purposes of just being able to more easily programmatically manipulate tests at work. So that could be a pretty fun project. It might also already exist, which doesn't mean that it's it could still be a good project for learning. So our tests take 4 seconds to run. This is like, I think some people might be like, well, so what? But I actually think this is super important on the Cockroach Cloud project, much less Cockroach DB. I actually don't know. I wonder if anyone knows how many tests Cockroach DB has. On Cockroach Cloud, we have thousands of tests. So if one test takes 4 seconds to run, then that's like, you're already looking at like multiple hours just to run the unit test if every test took 4 seconds to run. The coding guy says, why are you using keyword import for each package when you can use import and then parentheses? Well, that's a great question. The main reason is that I didn't realize that I could do import and then multiple packages. I think I wonder why I haven't, maybe we just don't use the multiple imports on one line in the Cockroach Cloud code base. Or maybe we do, and I just never noticed it. I wonder if we use that in the Cockroach DB code base. Maybe. Slow tests ruin developer productivity. So true. So one cool thing that we're doing here is we're actually going to mock sleep. And not only is this going to make our project better tested, but it's also going to make the test run faster, that's two completely different benefits that are both really great. So we're going to make an interface. Cool. I like this. So what we're basically going to do here is we're going to make some kind of sleep. We're making this sleeper, and we're going to, probably in the test, we're going to verify that we called the sleeper a certain number of times. So we'll also need to take the sleeper as an argument to countdown. So instead of calling time.sleep, we're now going to call sleeper.sleep. And we'll need to replace this call here. Here's what people think about this level of testing. Like, would you do this thoroughness of tests for your own projects? Or would you just kind of like write the production code and skip it? I think for a bigger project, I probably would do this, but for a small project, I might not worry about it. So I need a new sleeper. I wonder, can I define an anonymous type that sat as an interface? That would be pretty cool. Now, I realize I'm actually passing the time into the sleeper, but the sleep function that they are proposing does not take a time as the input. So let's do 1 times time.second. Let's try redoing our imports in the way that the coding guy suggested. Does it look nicer to have them all on one line? I kind of do like it. Although at a certain point, if you had just too many imports, you wouldn't be able to put them all on one line. But for a project like this, I think it looks pretty good. Thanks for the suggestion. I have backseating on in my Twitch tags, so feel free to suggest anything at any time. No comma. Great suggestion. Oh, that's even better. That's a pretty nice looking line. Oh, I need to put them on different lines anyways. Oh, I see. So this is just one import and then, oh, okay, I see. But yeah, so what I'm saving here is I only write the keyword import once, which is nice. I think we do use this pattern in Cockroach. So One thing that I am a little I doubt that defining this anonymous type is going to work, but we could see. So line 28. Yeah, I think the new function is not what I new. Is this even like real Golang? I feel like I just tried to write Java there and it was like no luck. So so would it be an anonymous struct? What I really want is anonymous like interface implementation. Yeah, this is what I want. So Go uses method sets. There is only one way to declare functions with receiver types, that is to say methods. So this is the special thing where you put the receiver type, which is like the type that you would, so like for sleeper is the receiver type. But there's only one way to declare this, which means that what I'm trying to do might not be okay. Oh, okay. So Stack Overflow is giving us an alternate way. Does anybody know off the top of their head how to do anonymous interface implementations in Golang? My idea here is like that I won't declare a new type of sleeper to be the real sleeper, that I'll just somehow like define the sleeper right on this line of code. But it looks like that might be, I don't think they're really giving us a solution that would apply to this situation. It looks like what they're doing, they're defining a new type. They're defining methods on that type. And then we're creating a new anonymous struct. And we are assigning methods to it. Wow, this actually reminds me a little. I don't know what it reminds me of. I didn't imagine that this is how this would work in Golang. And they're saying this works because by embedding proto thing, the method set is inherited. So they're actually talking about the concept of inheritance here, which is not something that we covered in the book so far. They're saying that if I create a new struct that wraps only this proto thing, then my new struct will like have the same methods. The coding guy says you can remove new. Yeah, that seems like I got that keyword from like JavaScript or something, maybe Java. So I think that I cannot do the thing that I wanted. So I'm going to define a thing that's called like 1 second sleeper. And then I'm going to make a function. Ooh, that's not how we do it. So this actually doesn't need any data. I think I can just make it an empty struct. So then I need to implement the interface for it. The way we would do that, we would define a func, and then we type the method receiver to the left of, ooh, is it to the left of the method name? Yeah. So sleep, and then this will take, oh, this needs to be capital sleep. Yeah, I'm very unused to the capital letters. Does anybody know if there's a way to avoid defining this new type? My reading of at least the Stack Overflow is that we do have to define this type. So here is where I'm going to actually call time.sleep and then 1 times time.second. One thing that's kind of fun in Golang is that all of the time units are, I think they're in nanoseconds. There's no like, as far as I know, they don't use a time type. It's just an integer. So like this value time.second is like billion, I want to say. So here we're not going to try and define the sleeper. We're just going to make a new 1 second sleeper. I need like, probably need curly brackets to declare a new struct. I feel like this is not going to compile. If I tried to run this, let's take a look. I don't see any definite errors, but I think there's probably some errors in here. Oh, wow. Okay, so I guess I was wrong about that. It looks like that worked correctly because it might be hard to see from the stream, but looking locally, it definitely did pause between each print. However, the test is still going to fail because I'm not passing the right thing into the test, into the test invocation of the method here because I need to pass in also a sleeper. So let's see what they want us to do for this. They want a mock sleeper. Okay, so they're calling this a spy. And what this spy is doing is that it's actually tracking the number of times we've called it and incrementing that every time. And presumably we're going to check that we called sleep exactly. Well, it would be 3 sleep, 2 sleep, 1 sleep, go. And then do we sleep after go? That seems weird. Oh, we sleep before 3. So there should be 4 calls to sleep. So let's paste the spy sleeper and see if we can figure out how to use this. In a lot of Go mocking libraries, you would have something built into the library that will like already do this spying logic. But here we're writing it ourselves, which is pretty fun. Mohammed Raja Blue says, how to write unit tests for large application logic. That is a good question. I think there's no easy answer, but I'm curious what people in the chat have to say about unit testing large applications. One thing that I like to do is have multiple different layers of testing. So that would include unit testing, integration testing, end-to-end testing, and each layer of tests, like the end-to-end testing would catch the most bugs, but potentially be more complex or harder to debug or slower. Whereas the unit tests might not catch every bug, but they will catch a lot of bugs, and the unit test will ideally be fastest. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's whole books on unit testing large applications. Undefined sleeper. Interesting. What did I do wrong here? This is on line 17. Oh yeah, so I need to make a new spy sleeper. So I just call spy sleeper with brackets. Oh, I need to specify the initial value of calls. So one thing that's interesting in Golang if I'm thinking about this right, we can actually omit the initial value of calls and it will initialize to 0. I think in some situations that would be like bad because we could introduce a bug, but in this situation it's convenient because I actually do want it to be initialized to 0. Ah, thank you for that. I want to say rose emoji. I got to send more rose emojis in my life. That could be something to work on. I'm currently addicted to the sunglasses face emoji because large data bank also is a big fan of sunglasses emoji. Cannot use spy sleeper literal as type sleeper. Spy sleeper does not implement sleeper. Sleep method has pointer receiver. Ooh. Oh, interesting. So this is, I was thinking originally, what's the issue here? Do we need to change the definition of the sleep method? But I think what we actually need to do is take a reference, or is this called a reference in Go? I think it is called a pointer. So I think we need to take a pointer to spy sleeper. And this is going to be really important because this actually modifies the internal state of spy sleeper. So we don't want to be copying it because then we could potentially lose track of the number of calls. I think we went over this, I want to say 2 episodes ago, where if you pass an object when a pointer is needed, you might get into a situation where you think that you're modifying some state, but you're actually modifying the state on a copy of your object. Ooh, let me check the streaming schedule. I want to make sure that I'm not overrunning my stream time because I thought that we might actually have another cockroach stream going on. I think we do not have another stream, so I'm set to keep going. Great. One thing I'm not doing here is I am not checking the value from spy sleeper, but the test does pass. So it could be a good time to commit. Let's do a Go format and an add-p. So this is really about like a sleeper interface. All right. So we want to check that the sleeper has actually been called 4 times. That should be pretty easy. The only problem with what I have here is that I don't have it in a variable, so I could never get that value out. So I'm going to make a new variable. Oops. I think I definitely pasted the wrong thing there. So now do it. So I'm creating a new object here. Do I want to immediately take a pointer to that object? Or do I want to take a pointer to the object when I am calling countdown? I believe that the Rust linter would tell me that I would want to do this second thing. But I'd like to know if this is the right thing to do in Golang. The coding guy says, do you work on the cockroach db/cockroach repository? I basically don't work on that. I'd like to do some commits to it, but my job is on the cockroach cloud side, which is a private code base. That's for the managed service offering of cockroach DB. So essentially, the trade-off is it's not open source, but cockroach does all the operations of scaling and maintaining the database as a service. And I think this is probably Cockroach Cloud would be the right choice for a lot of potentially smaller businesses that don't have the time to maintain a whole DevOps team to keep the database up and running, because it's definitely non-trivial, especially if you want to if you want to maintain multiple regions or a really large cluster. I think any kind of database is going to be an operational burden on your organization. The Cockroach Cloud codebase is also all in Golang. Let's try. Oh, I feel like I meant to check the value of spy sleeper. So let's do another if got. So we'll do if spy sleeper dot calls. And I noticed that this is public, so we can check this directly. If it's not 4, then I'll do an error F. And then we need to put the number that we got. So the number that we want is 4. And the number that we got is spysleeper.calls. Maybe I can set up Vim to auto run Go format when I save. That would be pretty cool. We think this is going to pass. Yeah, I think it's going to pass. Ooh, yikes. RF format %s has arg spysleeper.calls of wrong type int. Right. So the issue here is that I put these as %s's, but they're actually integers. So I need %d, which is to format an integer as a base 10, just how you would normally write that integer out. The coding guy says you can use Vim Go plugin in Vim for that. Ooh, I don't think I have that plugin. That would be a pretty fun thing to set up. So, okay. They did basically the same type of spy logic that I did. So this commit message will be like check spy output or count spy calls. Speaking of spy calls, anybody a fan of stonks in the stream? This just reminds me because SPY is the stock symbol for the S&P 500, and then a call is a type of, I guess it's a financial instrument. Call is short for, I guess, call option. I enjoyed following the Reddit Wall Street Bets saga over the recent months. Definitely a good source of entertainment for the pandemic. So, okay. I think I already did all this stuff. Default sleeper is what they called theirs. Yep, looks pretty similar to mine. And interestingly here, they are taking the pointer right here at the top. So that way, whenever you do anything with a sleeper, with the sleeper variable, you're always going to do it with the pointer, which I guess is right, because you would would you want to copy it? I don't know. In this particular case, doesn't seem like it would matter because the default sleeper has no state. So if you make a copy of it, it's like, who cares? On the other hand, I think as a general practice, maybe it's good to do this ampersand at the top so that you don't accidentally make a copy of your data. Definitely curious to hear if any more seasoned programmers have, or even unseasoned programmers have a perspective on that. The test is now compiling, but not passing. But this is fine. I already got past this. There's an important property we haven't tested. Countdown should sleep before each print. So now we're like taking our original kind of fizzbuzz function and like exploding it into just an insane granularity of testing. I think for this particular behavior, it feels kind of silly, but as a general technique, I think it's a really great one, especially when you're dealing with taking some actions on a system where you can't easily test that system. You might want to just like test, I'm taking each of these actions in the correct order. And this is actually, now that I think about it, this is actually kind of a functional programming approach where instead of directly taking action that has side effects, what we're doing is we're basically like producing a list of side effects and then verifying that we produce the right list, which I think is a really great way to do programming. Curious if we have any functional or partially functional programmers in the chat. For me, I really enjoyed Scala. I think it was a great way to learn about functional programming. I experimented with Haskell and Clojure, but never really got very far. And I do think that Rust and JavaScript both have a lot of interesting functional programming elements, although neither one is, I wouldn't say that either one is primarily a functional language. Right. So the issue is our latest change only counts the number of sleeps. When writing tests, if you're not confident that your tests are giving you sufficient confidence, just break it. So what they're doing here, can anyone see like what the issue is with the test? I think what they're doing is they're doing all of the sleeps first, and then they're doing all of the prints where they should do one sleep, one print, one sleep, one print, so on and so forth. So they're intentionally breaking the test, and they're going to see that the test doesn't fail. So I don't know how interested I am in actually implementing this, but I think I see what they're going to do. I do want to look at their solution. So instead of having a sleeper interface, now they have a countdown operations spy, and this is a struct. I think, okay, so they're going to have this implement both the sleep interface as well as the write interface from io.writer. That is actually a really cool idea. So what they're going to do here is keep track of a calls array, and then they'll append to the array every time you make a new call. So every time you write, it will verify that we're writing something. I think on top of this, what this is not currently doing is this is not currently taking in what we're writing, but we could even check that we're writing the correct thing. And so the sleep function does not need a return at the end. I guess it's because there's no type that we're returning. However, this does need a return, and they're just writing return. So I would guess that this just returns the default value for each um, for each of the fields here. And so it would return 0 for the int, and then it would return nil for the error. So that would mean like the operation succeeded. So I think this is a really great testing strategy here. Oh yeah, that's amazing. So what they're saying is they're defining their expected sequence of operations and verifying that it's equal to the actual sequence of actions that the code took. I think that's really neat. And they're actually using a reflect.deep equal here. That's something I'd like to learn more about in the future. So are people interested to see the implementation of this? I would definitely be down to go through it, but I also don't mind kind of like breezing through. So we now have 2 tests spying on the sleeper. We can now refactor a test. So one is testing what is being printed. Right. So I think they're talking about combining the 2 tests into one. Maybe not. Yeah, I guess not. A nice feature would be for sleeper to be configurable. We can adjust the sleep time in our main program. So we could do this by adding data into the struct. Yeah, so it looks like that's what we're doing. We're making a configurable time.duration, and then we have a sleep function that takes a time as an argument. Why does this seem a little weird? So I guess this configurable sleeper is going to be used also in testing, which is why we need to mock out the sleep function. Yeah, I feel like you could structure this in a couple different ways. This does not necessarily seem like the simple structure, but I think if we want to test that we can sleep for the right duration or something, maybe it's helpful. So this is what, this is weird. So in the sleep function, we're taking a duration, but we're also taking a duration in the struct configurable sleeper. Does anyone understand what's going on with that? That seems a little weird. It seems like we have 2 durations, and how do we decide which one to do? So here, what we're doing, we're making a configurable sleeper, setting the sleep time, and then, I don't know, this code structure to me feels a little unnecessarily abstracted. So now what does it look like to use the configurable sleeper? They pass in, okay, this is cool. All right, I see what they're doing. So they're actually just passing time.sleep as the sleep function of their configurable sleeper. Yeah, I like that. I take it back. That's cool. Okay, so final discussion. Isn't mocking evil? I did not know that mocking was evil. You need to listen to the tests and respect the refactoring. Okay, cool. If your mocking code is becoming complicated, you should listen to that bad feeling and think about your code. Usually, it is a sign of trying to do too many things, having dependencies that are too fine-grained. That's an interesting problem. That's kind of hard to feel out, to know when you're like making your dependencies too fine-grained, because you might need to change too much code in order to mock something, or your test is too concerned with implementation details. A lot of mocking points to bad abstraction. Cool. And the author says this is not a weakness in TDD, but it's a strength because it forces you to make your code well designed and easily testable. I think you could say that's a strength. Yeah. So mocks and tests are still making my life hard. Wow, this is like, I feel like I want an infomercial guy who's like, are mocks and tests making your life hard? Ever run into this situation? You want to do some refactoring. You change a lot of tests. You question TDD and make a post on Medium titled Mocking Considered Harmful. Wow. I wonder if this is inspired by like a specific Medium post. The author seems like they read a post about mocking being considered harmful and they did not agree with it. So the author offers some tips. One thing that's actually pretty interesting here is the definition of refactoring is that the code changes, but the behavior stays the same. I think one thing that I agree with that definition. One thing I've been guilty of certainly in my life is using the word refactoring to refer to a code change that might actually change the behavior. So yeah, I do think that's a definition to be kind of careful with. If a test is working with more than 3 mocks, it is a red flag. Time for a rethink on the design. I think that's a cool rule of thumb. I haven't really thought about that. A similar rule of thumb is like if a piece of code is duplicated in 3 or more places, then you should factor it out. And I think that that's also a good rule of thumb to start with, but of course, like any rule of thumb, it's not going to apply in every situation. Although Go lets you test private functions, I would avoid it, as private functions are implementation detail to support public behavior. Test the public behavior. Does anyone have opinions on testing private functions? I actually think I do like testing private functions. I know that a lot of TDD people say that you shouldn't do it. So I think the best time to do it is if you have a lot of mathematical or logical complexity in a private function. I think it can be helpful to unit test that. And you can also use private functions as like kind of a way to mock out certain dependencies. So I don't know. I am kind of a fan of testing private functions, but I know a lot of people don't agree with that. So finally, use spies with caution. Yeah, right. So you get more into the implementation details, I would say. But yeah, they say that means a higher coupling between the test code and the implementation. So I agree that that's spies. I would say I would not use a spy unless I would almost kind of only use a spy as the last resort. Can't I just use a mocking framework? Mocking requires no magic and is relatively simple. Okay, using a framework can make mocking seem more complicated than it is. I think that's fair because a lot of mocking frameworks do look really complicated. The reason we didn't use a framework is basically for understanding purposes, but what I want to actually do is try and take a look at Golang's built-in mock library and see how that contrasts with doing the mocking ourselves. Ren Kanar7, hello, welcome to the stream. We're doing some Golang mocking today, and we're going to check out the Go mock framework. So we got some more TDD stuff. Oh, this is a great quote. You should use iterative development only on projects that you want to succeed. Nice. I definitely respect Martin Fowler's idea. One vocabulary thing is test doubles. I think this is from Martin Fowler's post. I would definitely recommend reading this for some neat ways to break down the different ways that you can have what Martin Fowler calls test doubles. He breaks them down into spies, mocks, stubs, and dummies or something like that. I don't remember which each of them does, but I definitely think that it's a good way to have the vocabulary to talk about different types of testing objects. So everything is committed to Git. Next chapter of the book is concurrency, which I'm very excited to get to. Concurrency is super fun and weird, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do. So, but for now, what I want to do is I want to check out Golang/mock. GoMock is a mocking framework for the Go programming language. And as you can see, it's like officially part of Golang. So let's see if we can figure out how to use this. Maybe we can try and use GoMock on previous, like on this exact countdown problem. Has anyone here used mocking in a programming language before? I think I've definitely done some mocking in Java and Scala. So we need to install this mockgen. Cannot use path at version syntax in Go path mode. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, what version of Go do I have? Oh, I have Go 1.15. So I followed the wrong instruction here. I wonder what they're going to add in 1.16 where I could just do this Go install. That seems convenient. Okay. So instead, I need to do Go 111 module equals on, and then I do a Go get of the same project. Okay. Let's check out the hosted docs. But we can continue with the instructions in the README. So I can generate mocks from a source file. I'm going to go into my root directory because I might want to run this as a Git hook, and Git hooks, I think, typically run from the root of your repo. So mockgen -source equals, I want probably the full path. One thing I'm wondering, is this going to automatically generate a mock of everything in countdown.go, or is it only going to generate some of the stuff? Oh, look at that. So let's take a look at this generated code. I like that it just prints it right to standard out. So at the top here, code generated by mockgen, very capital, do not edit it. Cool. And then source, countdown/countdown.go. They are, just telling us where this came from. Mock main is a generated Go mock package. Okay, so they took the name of my package and prepended mock to it. That seems pretty smart. What are we importing? We are importing reflect, and we're also importing Go mock. Cool. So here, mock sleeper is a mock of the sleeper interface. Wow, they even gave us a mocked interface. That seems nice. So this has a Go mock controller, which we don't really know what that is, and a mock sleeper mock recorder. So this has, whoa, is this a little weird? So the mock sleeper struct has a mock sleeper mock recorder pointer, And then the mock sleeper mock recorder struct has a pointer back to, is it to the same mock sleeper or is it a different mock sleeper? Like, is this a circular pointer? That seems like it would be almost a little too weird, but maybe there's a reason to do that. I think, well, so in Golang, would a pointer be, I'm guessing a pointer would be like reference counted, or it would at least be garbage collected in some way. So I wonder, does a cycle in Golang, does a pointer cycle in Golang prevent the garbage collector from collecting objects? I think in a language, I want to say like maybe Swift or something like that, that uses, I believe, reference counted pointers. So if you have a circular, if you have two pointers pointing to each other, they might never get garbage collected. Whereas in some other languages, the garbage collector actually traces through everything and tries to find out if there are any references to any object. So it can still get rid of unused objects that contain reference cycles. Okay, we've got this function expect. It is all capitals. Whoa. Have we seen any all capitals stuff in Golang at all? I wonder, what does all caps mean? Is it like even more public than a public? I kind of doubt it. So this returns an object that allows the caller to indicate expected use. Oh, so this is going to like record every method call that we're making or something. Sleep mocks the base method. And what this is doing, t.helper. So I don't know how this is actually going to get the test. It must have some magic way to get the testing.t, but this helper function tells the, it's just like to make an easier stack trace. This will tell the testing framework, like, don't start the stack trace from here. Start it from whatever called this, I think. So then we're also doing this thing, m.control.call, and then we're passing in sleep as a string. So what I'm guessing is that this controller actually keeps track of all of the function calls that we've made. And it's keeping track of them by name. So here, sleep indicates an expected call of sleep. So we actually pass the mock sleeper mock recorder into the expect function. And it looks like we're going to call sleep. So we call sleep every time on the mock recorder for once that we expect it to be called on the real sleeper. And then it will check whether we expected the same number of calls that we actually made. I have to say, this code seems quite reasonable and simple for a mocking framework. Oh, and there's a completely different mode. So we can look at the source code to generate the mocks, or we can actually even reflect on objects at runtime. Now, what is going to be the trade-off between runtime reflection and source code generation? I feel like the source code most likely would produce better debugging. I actually don't know why you would use one over the other, but I think let's try and start with the source mode. So let's take a look at the flags. It looks like we're going to need to set at least the destination so that we can make it save this test, or to save the like generated code. And we've got a lot of other options here. So I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, hopefully we can figure out how to actually use this Go mock to test our countdown code. All right, I'm back. Thanks for waiting. So let's try and use Go mock to mock out our countdown code. Where's that call to mockgen? Here we are. So what we need to do, we have a source, but we also need a destination. So I'll put this in countdown slash, and then what will we call this? Countdown underscore mock.go or something? It might not matter exactly what the name of the function is. Ooh, and maybe what I want to do is actually include this step in my Git hooks so that I always get fresh fresh mocks. Great. So that should run every time I do a build. Now, how do we use the mocks? Building mocks. Okay, this looks relevant. So we create a new Go mock controller, and we're gonna do a defer. Interesting. So when we call controller.finish, that's what actually does the verification. It looks like if we actually forget to call defer, then we're not going to get any mocking validation. I think that's an interesting thing to check out. So let's go to our countdown test.go, and we'll need to make a new controller. So we're going to defer calling control.finish. Now I need to make a new mock. So instead of my spy sleeper, I'm going to remove this, and I'm just going to use the thing from Go mock. So I'm going to call it mock sleeper. Forget if this is the real name of the mock function that we made. So we also need to pass the sleeper into the countdown function. And we need to call expect on this. Oh, interesting. So this expect you do this is an interesting method call where we're actually we're calling like little sub methods. The other thing that's interesting here, I feel like in a lot of programming languages, we would put the dot at the start of the line, but here we're actually putting it at the end of the line. I'm not sure. I guess, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I think about that. So I called dot expect, and then I called dot sleep. I don't think I need to give any arguments to sleep. I don't even know if I need to call dot return. I would guess that this function should fail because I'm only calling sleep once, whereas like if I expect it to call sleep once, is it going to fail because I called it 4 times? So another thing I have to do is I have to call countdown after my expect. First, I define the expectation, then I actually run the system under test, as shown here. Let's get rid of the spy sleeper so we're not accidentally using it. I might need to, because this is in the same, I don't know if I'll need to import the mock. Let's see. Found packages main and mock main. Cannot find go mock in any. So I need to add a dependency on go mock, I think. So I think I need to actually make this like a Go. I think I need to make a go.mod. Can I do like, is there a Go init that will make a new, maybe a Go mod init? I'm going to do Go mod help here. Go mod init. Ooh. Go mod help init is how I get help on init. This writes a new Go mod. This seems reasonable. Okay, so I'm going to do Go mod init. Let's see what it made here. So this is a pretty bare bones file. Oops. I actually wanted to make that in the parent directory. So I'm going to remove this attempt, go to the root of the project, and run a go mod init. We could make each directory its own go mod. I'm not sure what the trade-off on that is. It might be a little more complex, so I'm going to wait till later. So my plan now is to get the minimum version of this working and then sign off for having some lunch. So can I rerun this go get? I always forget how the Go module logic works. So I ran go test dot slash dot dot dot. And it says found packages main and mock main in the same directory. So what I'm thinking is that I need to actually probably make a different directory. So I'll make a directory countdown slash mock. Oops. And then I'm going to try regenerating my code into that directory. So let's edit the pre-commit hook here. And the destination will be now countdown slash mock slash countdown.co. And we'll run the git hook. Need to remove the old file. I'm going to remove my extra directory that I made here and run the commit hook. Okay, I think this is progress. At least it's a different error message. Countdown test, line 7, expected semicolon, but found colon equals. Okay. Ooh, I have a double colon equals here. So that definitely explains the syntax error. Countdown test. A lot of undefined things here. I think I need to import gomock. Package gomock is not in go root. Yeah. Oh, I wonder if my streaming setup has like a different Go path than my normal development setup. I feel like I might have done that. let's take a look at Stack Overflow. Oh man, this is a dark Stack Overflow right here. Definitely do not want to be here. This is just like people randomly changing their project, I think. So what I want to do is like go add dependency or something. Might make sense to do just an entire episode on packaging and modules and stuff in Golang because I think that stuff is really complicated. So let's see what's in my go.mod. Oh, and it actually does include this require mock. So that's a good sign. Possibly all I need to do now, do I need to import go mock or mock? Or possibly I need the full name, which would be github.com/golang/mock. Maybe that's what I needed. Let's see if that is what I needed. Module not found. So this was found 1.5.0, but it does not contain package github.com/golang/mock. So yeah, how do they tell me how I need to import the mock? This import stuff here is more about like importing from within the generated file, which is also pretty cool, but probably not needed for this. So the error was module does not contain package. Okay, so this is called github.com/golang/mock/gomock. Huh? That seems like duplication, but is this helping us at all? Undefined mock sleeper and new mock sleeper in the test file. I think that's progress probably. So now I probably need to import my mock package. So I would call it countdown_mock, I think. I might need like the full name. It might not know where to find that. Package countdown mock is not in Go root. Yeah, so I need to, maybe I can provide the package from within the current project. I think there should be a way to import a package from my own project. Maybe if I just do the full path to it. Possibly I need to start with a dot. It would be either dot/countdown, maybe. I don't know if that's a real way to do it. Local import and non-local package. Ooh, that's interesting. This doc does not explain local imports. Or what if I try like a full path here? Ooh, nope. That just took longer to fail. Well, one thing that I might be able to do is just generate my mock into the same package. Let's actually just try that. That's a bit of a hack, but in lieu of learning a lot about Go mod right now, I think this could be one simple way to get it working. So instead of putting it into a separate package, I'm just going to say, you know what, go right into the countdown package. Forget what I called the countdown package. I think I just called it main. And then now it's saying undefined mock sleeper. Let's see what files we've all created. I'm going to remove the countdown / mock directory because we're not going to use that anymore. And we need rm-rf. And let's see what changes we made to the test file. So countdown mock.go. This now has package main, which I think is great. And new mock sleeper is all caps. Mock sleeper is also all caps. Okay. So I think I just forgot to capitalize some things, which is frequently something that I do. Oh yeah, so what I actually need to do here is just declare this to be a new variable. Let's try that again. So I'm actually just running my git pre-commit hook every time to make sure that I regenerate the mocks and then run all my tests. Cannot use pointer to a mock sleeper, which is of type pointer to a mock sleeper as type sleeper. So I think the issue is that the function gave me back a pointer. I thought that the function was going to give me back a struct, but it gave me back a pointer. So I think I took a pointer to it using the ampersand, which I should not have done. Let's try that again. Oh, okay. So what is our problem? It says unexpected call to sleep. Expected call has already been called the max number of times. So it looks like the mocking framework is working. That's really great. What we need to do now is make sure that it will expect 4 sleeps. I could probably write this multiple times, like .sleep, .sleep, .sleep or something. But there might also be a better way to do it. Some functions will, or some mocking libraries let you actually tell it, I expect you to call this function this many times. Ooh, so this says .any times. But I think we want to specify how many times we're actually calling it. So let's first try one thing that I wanted to try here from earlier. What if we remove the defer? My idea is that the test will actually pass because we are never. Oh, maybe it's failing on the expect. Fair enough. So I'm going to try just calling this anytimes function after sleep and see if this makes it pass. I think that this will make the tests pass because it's saying, sure, you can call sleep 4 times. So that's great. But let's see if we can verify that it's called exactly 4 times. I'm going to have to go to the docs here. I see there is a .times function, which is the exact number of times a function call is expected. Let's say that we want it to be called 5 times. I'm using this because I want it to fail just to make sure the test actually does what I'm expecting. Aborting test due to missing calls. Great, missing calls to sleep. So that's excellent so far. I think we can also comment this defer out. I think this should make the test pass because it won't actually run the test. Oh no, I formatted everything. We're gonna have to be careful about that. I think there's an interesting question of whether to add the countdown mock file into source control. Maybe I'll just add it for now. Theoretically, you should be able to have it outside of source control, but it might be a little bit annoying. So can we now check that the test will pass because we didn't call defer? The answer is no. The test still fails on countdown test line 18, which is here. Okay. Well, I guess that's okay. So I'm not sure what this defer is actually doing. So let's try and just verify that we've called sleep exactly 4 times. Great. So we're pretty much done with mocking. And next time I'm planning to do some concurrency, which I think will be super fun. Hopefully we'll learn about maybe like channels or Go routines. Lots of fun stuff to do in Go. Oh, you know what? I should also add go.mod and go.sum. So we'll commit only the countdown stuff. So this will now run my tests and stuff. We're going to go format everything. And then how about adding a Go format into the Git hook? Maybe before we run the tests, but after we generate the mock so that it will format the generated file. Oh, interesting. The pre-commit hook is not committed into Git. I didn't totally realize that. You can, I guess, if you want it to be in Git, you can symlink it. But I don't know how important that is for now. Anyways, thanks everyone for tuning in. So today we learned about mocking in Go. We built our own tiny mocking and spy tool. And then we took a look at using GoMock, which is Golang's built-in mocking generation package, and we used a source code file to automatically generate mocks that did the same thing as our handwritten spy, but just a lot more powerful. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and looking forward to digging into some basic concurrency next week.